Are you ready to level up your DevOps career and master the most challenging aspects of Kubernetes? Orchestration? Most engineers know how to run a simple pod. But can you troubleshoot a crashing etcd cluster or implement zero downtime rolling updates for stateful workloads? In this video, we will cover advanced Kubernetes practice questions and explanations for DevOps professionals. Prepare for your Kubernetes certification with this advanced practice set. In this video, we dive deep into 30 high-level Kubernetes practice questions designed to simulate the intensity of the CKA and CKAD exams. We cover everything from advanced networking and storage classes to cluster hardening and custom operators. Make sure you have your terminal ready to follow along. And don't forget to subscribe for more cloud-native deep dives. When performing a manual etcd backup, which environment variable or flag is mandatory to ensure the snapshot is consistent and can be used for a restore? Option A, data dir. Option B, cert, cert, and key. Option C, endpoints. Option D, etcdctl_API equals 3. The correct answer is D. By default, etcdctl uses the v2 API, which does not support snapshots, to interact with the v3 store used by modern Kubernetes clusters for snapshots. You must set etcdctl_API equals 3. While endpoints and certificates, B and C, are necessary for communication with a secure cluster, the command will simply fail to recognize the snapshot subcommand entirely if the API version is not specified as 3. A pod is stuck in pending status. You notice the node has a taint. Disk type equals SSD. No schedule. What must be added to the pod specification to allow it to run on this node? Option A, a node selector for disk type equals SSD. Option B, a toleration for disk type equals SSD with effect no schedule. Option C, an affinity rule for disk type equals SSD. Option D, remove the taint from the node. The correct answer is B. Taints allow a node to repel a set of pods. For a pod to be scheduled on a tainted node, it must have a matching toleration. A node selector or affinity, A and C, only expresses a preference or requirement for a node's labels, but it does not bypass the no schedule effect of a taint. Only a toleration in the pod spec specifically matching the key value and effect can allow the scheduler to place the pod there. Which component is responsible for implementing the service abstraction by managing the network? Rules on nodes to forward traffic to pods? Option A, Kube Scheduler. Option B, Kube API Server. Option C, Kube Proxy. Option D, Container Runtime. The correct answer is C. Kube Proxy is a network proxy that runs on each node in your cluster. It maintains network rules on nodes. These network rules allow network communication to your pods from network sessions inside or outside of your cluster. It uses mechanisms like IP tables, IPVS, or user space to handle the traffic steering for services. The scheduler, A, handles placement, and the API server, B, handles the state storage. In a persistent volume, PV, with a reclaim policy set to written, what happens to the data in the PV when the associated persistent volume claim, PVC, is deleted? Option A, the PV and the external data are both deleted automatically. Option B. The PV is deleted, but the external data remains. Option C. The PV remains in released status, and the data is preserved. Option D. The PV is immediately available for a new PVC. The correct answer is C. The retain reclaim policy allows for manual reclamation of the resource. When the PVC is deleted, the PV still exists and is considered released. However, it is not yet available for another claim because the previous claimant's data still remains on the volume. An administrator must manually reclaim the volume by deleting the PV and then manually cleaning up the data on the storage asset. A pod is in crash loop back off. You check the logs using kubectl logs less than pod name greater than. But the output is empty. What is the next best command to troubleshoot the reason for the crash? Option A. kubectl describe pod less than pod name greater than. Option B. kubectl get events, sort by equals, metadata, creation timestamp. Option C. kubectl logs less than pod name greater than previous. Option D. kubectl exec it less than pod name greater than shish. The correct answer is C. When a container crashes, kubectl logs shows the logs of the asterisk current running or restarting instance. If the container crashes immediately, there might be no logs yet. Using the previous flag, or P, allows you to see the logs from the container instance that just crashed, which usually contains the error message or stack trace that caused the failure. Describe A is helpful for events but might not show application level errors. Which of the following commands is used to upgrade the KUBeadM tool itself on a Debian-based system? Option A. KUBeadM upgrade apply v1 x x. Option B. apt-get install ykubeadm equals 1 x x00. Option C. kubectl upgrade KUBeadM. Option D. apt-get update and an apt-get upgrade. The correct answer is B. Upgrading a Kubernetes cluster with KUBeadM is a multi-step process. First, you must upgrade the KUBeadM binary itself using the OS package manager. Apt or yum. Once the binary is upgraded, you then run KUBeadM upgrade plan and KUBeadM upgrade apply. A. To upgrade the control plane components. apt-get upgrade. D. Is too broad and might upgrade other packages unexpectedly. You need to expose a set of pods to external traffic using a single IP address provided by a cloud provider. Which service type should you use? Option A. Cluster IP. Option B. Node port. Option C. Load balancer. Option D. External name. The correct answer is C. The load balancer service type is the standard way to expose services to the Internet in cloud environments. It automatically provisions an external load balancer, like an AWS ELB or GCP-LB, and assigns a single public IP that routes traffic to the node ports and subsequently to the pods. Cluster IP A is internal only, and node port B requires using the node's IP in a high-range port. What is the primary difference between a deployment and a stateful set regarding pod identity? Option A. Stateful set pods have random hashes in their names. Deployments have ordinal indexes. Option B. Deployments use persistent volumes. Stateful sets use empty dir. Option C. Stateful set pods have stable, unique network identities and ordinal names, e.g., WEB0, WEB1. Option D. There is no difference in identity. They differ only in scaling speed. The correct answer is C. Stateful sets are designed for applications that require stable identifiers. Each pod is created from the same spec but is not interchangeable. It maintains a sticky identity, name and network ID, across rescheduling. In contrast, deployments treat pods as ephemeral replicas where each pod gets a unique random hash. E.g., app deployment 55678, and is completely replaceable by any other replica. A worker node is showing, not ready. SSH into the node and find the kubelet service is stopped. After starting it, it fails again. Which log file is the most specific for diagnosing kubelet startup failures? Option A. var, log, messages. Option B. journals ctlu kubelet. Option C. /var/log/kubernetes/kubelet.log. Option D. Docker logs kubelet. The correct answer is B. On most modern Linux distributions, like Ubuntu or CentOS used for K8s nodes, kubelet runs as a systemd service. Journals ctlu kubelet is the standard way to access the logs for the kubelet service. While var, log, messages might contain some info, journalctl provides the direct std out, stderr of the service. Kubelet is a binary, not a container, so Docker logs D would not work. You want to ensure that a pod cannot communicate with any other pods except those in the same namespace with the label role equals frontend. Which resource is used for this? Option A. RBAC role binding. Option B. Security context. Option C. Network policy. Option D. Admission controller. The correct answer is C. Network policies are the Kubernetes native way to control Layer 4 traffic. IP port between pods. By default, all pods can talk to all other pods. A network policy allows you to define ingress and egress rules based on labels and namespaces. RBAC A. Controls API access. And security context. B. Controls container-level permissions, like root user or read-only file systems. What is the role of etcd in a Kubernetes cluster? Option A. To manage container lifecycles. Option B. To act as a distributed key-value store for cluster state and configuration. Option C. To provide a GUI for cluster management. Option D. To route traffic between services. The correct answer is B. etcd is a consistent and highly available key-value store used as Kubernetes backing store for all cluster data. It is the source of truth. If etcd is lost, the cluster's state, which pods are running, what services exist, is lost. It does not manage containers. Kubelet does that. Or route traffic. Kube proxy does that. Which field in a pod spec should be used to ensure a container has a specific set of Linux capabilities, such as net_admin? Option A. Spec. Containers. Capabilities. Option B. Spec. Containers. Security context. Capabilities.add. Option C. Spec, privileged. Option D. Spec, host network. The correct answer is B. Granular control over Linux capabilities is managed within the security context of the container. Definition. Using capabilities.add allows you to grant specific permissions, like net_admin or sys_time, without giving the container full privileged access. C. Which is a security risk. Spec, privileged is a boolean that gives all capabilities, which is usually overkill. What happens if a service is created with type cluster IP and cluster IP none? Option A. The service is deleted immediately. Option B. It creates a headless service, allowing DNS to return the IP addresses of the individual pods. Option C. The service will only be accessible via node port. Option D. The API server will assign a random IP regardless. The correct answer is B. Setting cluster IP none creates a headless service. In this mode, Kubernetes doesn't allocate a single virtual IP for the service. Instead, when a client performs a DNS lookup for the service name, the DNS server returns the set of A records, IP addresses, for all the pods that match the service's selector. This is commonly used with stateful sets for service discovery between members. You need to share a directory between two containers in the same pod. Which volume type is most appropriate? Option A. Host path. Option B. Persistent volume claim. Option C. Empty dir. Option D. Config map. The correct answer is C. An empty dir volume is created when a pod is assigned to a node and exists as long as that pod is running on that node. All containers in the pod can read and write the same files in the empty dir volume. This is the standard way for sidecar containers to share logs or scratch space with the main application container. Host path A is less secure and ties the pod to a specific node's file system. A deployment is configured with 3 replicas, but kubectl get deployments shows 0/3 available. Which command provides the most insight into why the replicas are not being created? Option A. Kubectl logs less than deployment name greater than. Option B. Kubectl describe deployment less than deployment name greater than. Option C. Kubectl get pods. Option D. Kubectl describe rs less than replica set name greater than. The correct answer is D. Deployments manage replica sets, rs, and replica sets manage pods. If the deployment is not creating pods, the error is often found in the replicates events. Running describe on the rs will show if there are issues like failed create due to quota limits, invalid service accounts, or selector mismatches. Describing the deployment B might show the scaling intent, but the actual creation logic is in the rs. How can you restrict a service account in the dev namespace so it can only get and list pods within that same namespace? Option A. Create a cluster role and a cluster role binding. Option B. Create a role and a role binding. Option C. Create a role and a cluster role binding. Option D. Modify the default pod security policy. The correct answer is B. To restrict permissions to a specific namespace, you use role, which defines permissions inside a namespace, and role binding, which grants those permissions to a user, group, service account within that namespace. Cluster role and cluster role binding are used for cluster-wide permissions across all namespaces, which violates the principle of least privilege here. Which tool is the official CLI for interacting with a Kubernetes cluster? Option A, kubeshell. Option B, kubectl. Option C, kubectl. Option D, K9s. The correct answer is B. Kubectl is the standard command line tool for communicating with a Kubernetes cluster's control plane via the API server, while tools like kubectl, C, and K9s, D, are popular community utilities to make management easier. Kubectl is the official tool maintained by the Kubernetes project. You want to ensure that only one instance of a specific pod runs on every node in the cluster. Which controller should you use? Option A, deployment. Option B, stateful set. Option C, daemon set. Option D, job. The correct answer is C. A daemon set ensures that all, or some, nodes run a copy of a pod. As nodes are added to the cluster, pods are added to them. As nodes are removed from the cluster, those pods are garbage collected. This is ideal for cluster-level background tasks like log collection, Fluented, node monitoring, Prometheus node exporter, or storage drivers. What is the function of an ingress controller in Kubernetes? Option A, to provide a cluster IP to pods. Option B, to act as a Layer 7 load balancer and route traffic based on host names or paths. Option C, to manage the container runtime on nodes. Option D, to encrypt traffic between pods automatically. The correct answer is B. While an ingress resource defines the rules, the ingress controller is the actual software, like Nginx, HAProxy, or Traefik, that implements those rules. It sits at the edge of the cluster, receives external HTTPS traffic, and routes it to the correct internal services based on the URL path or hostname defined in the ingress resource. A pod is stuck in image pull back off. You verify the image name is correct and the image exists in a private registry. What is the most likely missing piece of configuration? Option A, liveness probe. Option B, image pull policy, always. Option C, image pull secrets. Option D, config map. The correct answer is C. To pull an image from a private registry, Kubernetes needs credentials, usually a Docker config JSON. These credentials are stored in a secret of type kubernetes.io/dockerconfig.json single quote. The pod must then reference this secret in its image pull secrets field so that the kubelet can authenticate with the registry and pull the image. What does dynamic provisioning mean in the context of Kubernetes storage? Option A, the administrator must create PVs manually before users can claim them. Option B, storage is created automatically by a storage class when a PVC is requested. Option C, storage is only allocated when the pod starts running. Option D, the storage size changes automatically based on usage. The correct answer is B. Dynamic provisioning eliminates the need for cluster administrators to pre-provision storage. Instead, they define storage classes. When a user creates a persistent volume claim and references a storage class, the cluster automatically provisions the underlying storage, e.g., a managed disk in AWS GCP, and creates the matching persistent volume object. Which admission controller is responsible for ensuring that pods do not exceed their allocated resource quotas in a namespace? Option A, node restriction. Option B, resource quota. Option C, limit ranger. Option D, mutating admission webhook. The correct answer is B. The resource quota admission controller observes incoming requests and ensures that the total resource consumption, CPU, memory, etc., in a namespace does not exceed the limits defined in a resource quota object. If a pod request would put the namespace over the limit, the admission controller rejects the request with a forbidden error. During a cluster upgrade, you should draw in a node. What does cubic L drain less than node name greater than actually do? Option A, it shuts down the physical machine. Option B, it marks the node as unschedulable and evicts all running pods. Option C, it deletes the node from the cluster state in etcd. Option D, it restarts all containers on the node. The correct answer is B. Draining a node is a safe way to prepare it for maintenance. It performs two main actions. 1. It cordons the node, marks it scheduling disabled, so no new pods are placed there. 2. It evicts the existing pods, causing them to be rescheduled on other available nodes in the cluster. It does not delete the node object or shut down the server hardware. What is the purpose of a liveness probe? Option A, to check if the application is ready to receive traffic. Option B, to check if the container is still running and restart it if it fails. Option C, to measure the CPU usage of the container. Option D, to verify that the pod has been scheduled correctly. The correct answer is B. A liveness probe is used by the kubelet to know when to restart a container. For example, if an application is running but is in a deadlock state where it can't progress, a liveness probe, like an HTTP GET to a health's endpoint, will fail, and the kubelet will kill the container and start a new one based on the restart policy. In a cluster with core DNS, what is the default DNS name for a service named MySVC in a namespace named testing? Option A, MySVC, testing. Option B, MySVC, testing.svc, cluster, local. Option C, testing.mysvc, cluster. Option D, MySVC, cluster, local. The correct answer is B. Kubernetes services are assigned a DNS name following the pattern less than service name greater than, less than namespace name greater than .svc, less than cluster domain greater than . By default, the cluster domain is cluster, local. Pods within the same namespace can just use MySVC. But for cross-namespace communication, the full qualified domain name, FQDN, is required. You see a pod status as terminating for a long time. What is the most common reason for this? Option A, the node has lost connectivity to the API server. Option B. The container's press-stop, hook or graceful termination period is still running. Option C. The image cannot be pulled. Option D. The service is still sending traffic to the pod. The correct answer is B. When a pod is deleted, Kubernetes sends a SIGTERM to the processes and waits for a grace period. Default 30s. For them to shut down cleanly. If the process ignores the signal or a press-stop hook is running a long-running task, the pod remains in terminating status. If a node is not ready, the pod might also stay terminating because the kubelet isn't there to confirm the deletion. Which Kubernetes object allows you to store sensitive information like database passwords in a base64 encoded format? Option A, config map. Option B, secret. Option C, persistent volume. Option D, taint. The correct answer is B. Secrets are used to store and manage sensitive information, while config maps are for plain text configuration. Secrets are intended for sensitive data. It's important to note that base64 encoding is * not encryption. It is just a way to store binary data. For real security, you should enable encryption at rest for etcd or use an external KMS provider. You are creating a high availability cluster. How many etcd nodes are recommended for a production-grade cluster to maintain quorum during a single node failure? Option A, 2. Option B, 3. Option C, 4. Option D, 1. The correct answer is B. etcd uses the Raft consensus algorithm, which requires a majority quorum of nodes to be available. Quorum is defined as n2 plus 1. With 3 nodes, you can lose 1 node and still have 2, which is greater than 1.5. Maintaining quorum with only 2 nodes, losing 1 node leaves you with 1, which is not a majority of 2, leading to cluster failure. Which deployment strategy replaces old pods with new ones one by one, ensuring no downtime? Option A, recreate. Option B, rolling update. Option C, blue, green. Option D, canary. The correct answer is B. The rolling update strategy is the default in Kubernetes. It gradually replaces instances of the old version with instances of the new version. You can tune this using max unavailable and max surge parameters. The recreate strategy kills all old pods before starting new ones, causing downtime. You want to expose a service on a static port between 30.0.0.32767. On every node's IP, which service type should you use? Option A, cluster IP. Option B, load balancer. Option C, node port. Option D, ingress. The correct answer is C. The node port service type opens a specific port on every node in the cluster. Any traffic sent to that port is forwarded to the service. By default, the port range is 30.0.0.32767. This is often used when an external load balancer is not available or when you want to handle traffic routing manually at the infrastructure level. That wraps up our 30-question Advanced Kubernetes Challenge. How many did you get right? Let us know your score in the comments below. If you found this helpful, Hit that like button and subscribe for more DevOps content. We've got plenty of tutorials on Terraform, Helm, and CI/CD pipelines coming your way. For the full 100+ question bank and interactive labs, check out the course link in the description below.